Welcome back to Unraveling India. Last time we explored the vast and complex origins of India itself. Today we embark on a fascinating journey into the very fabric of how knowledge was preserved and disseminated in ancient India, the story of the written language. It is a tale of invention, loss, reemergence, deeply intertwined with the spiritual and social evolution of the subcontinent. Chapter 1: The Dawn of the Script. Echoes of the Indus. Our story begins with the enigmatic Indus Valley civilization, thriving around 2500 BCE. Imagine their bustling, meticulously planned cities like Mohenjo-daro and Harappa. These were marvels of urban ingenuity, complete with sophisticated drainage systems and organized public spaces. And within these cities, archaeologists have unearthed evidence of a unique and still largely mysterious writing system, the Indus Script, found on seals, pottery, and small tablets. The script represents one of the world's earliest forms of writing. Its very existence tells us that these ancient people possessed a complex society that demanded means of recording information, perhaps for trade, administration, or even religious purposes. They weren't just speaking, they were actively inscribing their world. The language that they spoke remains a subject of intense academic debate, with various theories linking it to ancient Dravidian languages or even early Indo Aryan forms. What is clear, however, is that there is a vibrant literate culture once thrived in this ancient land. Chapter 2: The Great Silence and Oral Traditions Ascendancy. Then a profound silence falls over the written record. As the Indus Valley civilization mysteriously declined around 1900 BCE, so too did its writing system. For nearly a millennium, from roughly 1900 BCE to 600 BCE, there's a striking absence of indigenous written records across much of India. This period is famously known as the Vedic Age, and it was profoundly dominated by oral traditions. During this era, the foundation texts of Hinduism, the Vedas, the Rig Veda, the Samaveda, the Yajur Veda, and Atharva Veda, were meticulously composed. They weren't penned down, they were preserved and transmitted from generation to generation through an unbroken chain of oral recitation, primarily by a specialized priestly class, the Brahmins. Imagine the sheer intellectual discipline and dedicated practice required. Every syllable, every intonation, every rhythm of these sacred verses were memorized and perfectly passed down. The language of these texts was Vedic Sanskrit, an ancient Indo Aryan language that arrived with migrating groups. These were known as Aryans at the time, and became lingua franca of religious and philosophical discourse in the northern regions. Writing simply wasn't a practical necessity for the culture, so deeply invested in power and sanctity of the spoken word and memory, especially in societies that were still largely decentralized. Interestingly, during the same broad period, a distinct and ancient linguistic tradition was taking root and flourishing in South India, the Tamil language. Tamil is one of the world's oldest surviving languages, boasting a rich literacy tradition that developed quite independently from the Sanskrit base of Vedic traditions of the North. While the North was perfecting its oral transmission of the Vedas, pockets of the South were actively cultivating their own unique forms of expression, hinting at the potential for written forms even as the North relied purely on memory. This illustrates the diverse linguistic and cultural landscapes that coexisted across the subcontinent at the time. Chapter 3: Seeds of Change, Urbanization, Social Tensions, and New Ideas. As we transition closer to 800 to 700 BCE, the fabric of Indian society began to undergo significant transformations. We see beginnings of what scholars call the second urbanization in the fertile Gangetic plains. What were once scattered tribal settlements, sustained largely by agriculture and pastoralism, started to consolidate and grow into larger, more complex entities. A key catalyst for this was the widespread use of iron. Iron tools enabled the clearing of dense forests, opening up vast tracts of land for intensive agriculture. This increased food production, which in turn supported larger populations and the growth of more permanent structured settlements. These burgeoning settlements gradually evolved into powerful territorial units known as Mahajanapadas, literally great kingdoms or great states. Major cities like Varanasi, which became a profound center of trade and spiritual activity, and Magadha, destined to become one of the ancient kingdoms in India, began to emerge as significant urban and cultural hubs. People from diverse backgrounds who previously lived in isolated tribal groups were now congregating in these growing cities, leading to an unprecedented, vibrant exchange of ideas, goods, and cultural practices. However, this period of immense growth also brought new challenges and growing discontent. The social order became easingly complex and stratified. The Varna system, which had existed in a more fluid form in earlier Vedic times, began to rigidify significantly. Society was divided into distinct classes. The Brahmins, who were the priests, Kshatriyas, who were the warriors, Vaishyas, who were the merchants, and Shudras, who were the laborers. This rigid hierarchy, where one's birth largely determined their social status and even their life's potential, created profound social tensions and a growing sense of injustice. The rising merchant class, the Vaishyas, for instance, despite their accumulating wealth, often found themselves lacking the social prestige of the Brahmins or Kshatriyas. Furthermore, the impersonal, ritual heavy nature of the dominant Vedic religion, controlled by the Brahmin elite through the elaborate yagnas, which were sacrifices, to powerful deities like Indra, god of thunder and war, and Agni, the god of fire, often left many seeking more direct, personalized, and accessible spiritual experiences. 4. The re-emergence of script and the rise of new philosophies. It's against this backdrop of rapid social change, economic transformation, and deep spiritual yearning that writing makes its grand re-entry into India. Around the 6th century BCE, we see the development and increasing use of indigenous scripts, primarily Brahmi and Kharoshti, in regions like North India and Gandhara, respectively. While their exact origins are debated, their emergence perfectly coincides with this period of intense intellectual and religious ferment. This return of writing was not merely a technological advancement, it was a profound catalyst for change. For the first time in centuries, complex philosophical ideas, ethical codes, and new religious doctrines could be systemically recorded, preserved, and disseminated far beyond the limitations of purely oral transmission. This new ability to write played a crucial role in the rise and widespread propagation of the shamanic movements, which offered powerful critiques and direct challenges to the established Vedic Brahminical order. These new philosophies found exceptionally fertile ground in the burgeoning urban centers, where diverse populations were exposed to a multitude of ideas and often felt disillusioned with the rigidities of the existing social and religious orders. The ability to write down their sutras and teachings allowed these new religions to standardize their doctrines, create organized monastic communities with codified rules, and reach a far wider audience. This was an indispensable tool for proselytization, organization, and solidifying their unique identities, enabling them to establish themselves as significant and lasting forces in Indian society. This fascinating dance of spoken word and written text irrevocably shaped the diverse spiritual and cultural landscape of India, laying the foundation for millennia of philosophical debate, religious innovation, and the enduring tapestry of beliefs that define India even today. We will look at some of these new movements and religions in the next episode. I'm recording this episode um, from Amsterdam Airport on my way to India. We hope to see you soon in the next episode.